Okay, I'm just going to go through the elements of motion we looked at on Wednesday, just so you have them as a reference. Okay, so going from the start, just in case some of the machines aren't set up correctly, we'll start from just opening Motion 3 here. Always start with a new project on the Welcome to Motion page. The preset on the machines in university are just DV-PAL. They don't have the anamorphic setting, but that's fine for us. Duration 250 frames, so 10 seconds long. We can leave that as it is at the moment, and I can show you how to change that if need be. In fact, we'll do that now. If you aren't knowing that, if you do know that you only need like a 10-second title or something, you can change that in here. Okay, and just type in the number of frames that you're going to be working with. Okay, so we'll just start with very basic text then. Text is the T icon as it is in Photoshop. And just type something in the screen. Okay, and firstly, if we look at the HUD, so if we go to Windows and show HUD, this is the most basic element of anything you bring into Motion. So within this, we can change the font, the tracking of your text and the size there. You also got your color in here. Okay, so the HUD is fine for some things, but if we just get rid of that and now go to the inspector gives you all of those areas. Here, your font types and everything. And it also gives you more areas to work with on the style. You can see here that you can add an outline to your text and play with that a little bit and tweak that. Switch that off. Your glow gives some really nice effects to it. Again, it's going to be a combination of the blur and the color and the radius. The scale as well, you can see you can get some kind of drop shadow type effects. Okay, for the text though, you can change the fonts, as I've said, in format or in the HUD. But if you go to your library and just click on the fonts there, as you go through them, you can see the previews up here in the library screen, which is just something that you kind of never been able to do in Final Cut, so it's a nice change. So just grab a different font and you can just apply that, and there we have our new text. Another thing that you can do in here that you can't do in Final Cut is that if we go back, well, we'll just stay to our format, you can now highlight certain letters and change the size of them. In Final Cut you would have to do them as separate text files to actually work like this, so it's very useful in that way. And you can also change the fonts. You can change any of the elements with specific letters as opposed to the whole text piece. So let's just quickly do that. Lovely. That looks appalling, but you get the idea. Okay, and so you can also add gradients to your text, which gives a degree of tones. There's an example up here with the rainbow. The gradients you can find in the gradients area of the library, and you also have text styles. Text styles give you some nice effects as well. Okay, so if I apply the tropical, there we have the tones there. Right, I can see straight away you've got a slight drop shadow there. You've also got a glow, and you've got the two tones of color. So any particle or piece of text or anything in the library you can change again in the inspector. So we're in our text. If we go to the style here, right, so there's the gradient of our blues, and there's the glow there. If I turn the glow off, so the glow also included the drop shadow effect. So you can start looking at the elements of these areas to see exactly what they're doing. So the opacity of the glow there, you can bring that right down. Right, so for changing the gradients have a small drop down arrow to the left here. Okay, sometimes in class this was appearing blank and white and it wouldn't allow us to change the text. For the moment we need to see that as a glitch. If that happens, just delete the text and bring in another piece of text. Apply the gradient again and it should work. Okay, so I need to work out what that actually is. So different colors here, we can change the tones of these colors by pressing in the squares. I will change the middle blue one so it's obvious. A double click to bring up the color wheel. We can also change the shift. So here this arrow shows us where the gradient spills from the green into the blue. Shift that along, you can see it start to change up here in the text. And you can also move the squares themselves, which does a similar feel, but you can see that it's now slipping the green into the center of the text instead. Change that to a red so you can see the obvious changes. So yes, there's a lot you can do more than in Final Cut with your text. It's also much more detailed looking, so that's another reason for starting to use Motion at this stage. So for the export from here, File, Export. Now export QuickTime Movie is fine. If we leave this movie current project canvas settings, it means that you will have text on a black background. We want text on a transparent background. So what you need to do is move to Lossless plus Alpha. Alpha being the transparency channel. Okay, and give yourself a folder for all your motion effects. And then title it at the top.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes
Okay, when it's saved, you will get this preview screen. So we can get rid of that now. That's to show that that's just exported correctly.